The windshield wipers couldn't keep up with the rain, and Maya Kennedy's hands were cramping from gripping the steering wheel so hard for the past 3 hours. She should have checked the weather before leaving Chicago this morning, but she'd been too focused on escaping her claustrophobic apartment and her well-meaning but suffocating mother, who kept setting her up on blind dates with accountants and lawyers. At 26, Maya had decided a solo road trip through the Midwest would clear her head and give her space to figure out what she actually wanted from life, not what everyone else expected. The storm had other plans. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating a flickering neon sign up ahead. The Riverside Motel looked like it had seen better days, probably back in the 70s, but Maya didn't care. Her little sedan was hydroplaning every few seconds, and her knuckles were white. She pulled into the gravel parking lot, sending up sprays of muddy water, and killed the engine. The rain hammered against her car roof like 1,000 angry fists. She grabbed her purse, took a deep breath, and made a run for the office. Even in those 10 seconds, she was drenched. Her dark hair plastered to her face, her yellow sundress clinging uncomfortably to her skin. The office was a small room with wood paneling that smelled like cigarettes and pine sol. A woman in her 60s sat behind the counter, reading a paperback romance novel. She looked up at Maya over her reading glasses. "Awful night to be out driving," the woman said. "Tell me about it." Maya pushed her wet hair back from her face. "Do you have any rooms available?" The woman's expression turned apologetic. "Just one left, honey. We've got a full house tonight. Everyone's pulling off the highway because of the storm. Highway Patrol just closed Interstate 55 about 20 minutes ago." "Flooding? I'll take it." Maya pulled out her credit card, relief flooding through her. She didn't care if the room was small or if the mattress was lumpy. She just wanted to be dry and horizontal. "There's one small problem," the woman said, not taking the card yet. "Someone else just called about it, said he'd be here in 5 minutes. I told him it was the last one. But you're here now, and possession is 9/10 of the law, as they say." Maya hesitated. She wasn't the type to steal someone's room reservation, but the thought of going back out into that storm made her stomach churn. "Can't you call another motel for him?" "Everything within 50 miles is booked solid, according to my sister who runs the Super 8-Up in Canton. There's some big manufacturing conference that let out early because of the weather, plus the highway closure." The woman drummed her fingers on the counter. "If you're willing to share, I could offer you both the room at half price. It's not big, but it's got 2 beds. Share with a stranger." Maya's voice came out higher than intended. "Up to you, dear. Otherwise, one of you is sleeping in your car, and with this storm, that's not safe. We've got flash flood warnings, and the creek behind the motel is already rising." Before Maya could respond, the office door burst open. A man stumbled in, as soaked as she was, water dripping from his dark hair onto his shoulders. He was tall, probably 6'2", with broad shoulders under a gray t-shirt that now clung to a very well-defined chest. His jeans were muddy at the knees, like he'd slipped in the parking lot. Despite the disheveled appearance, there was something striking about him. Sharp jawline, intense green eyes, the kind of face that belonged in a cologne advertisement. "I called about the last room," he said, slightly breathless. His voice was deep, with a hint of authority that suggested he was used to getting what he wanted. The woman behind the counter gestured at Maya. "This young lady got here first, but I was just explaining that you could share the room. 2 beds, half price for each of you." The man's eyes landed on Maya for the first time, and she felt an unexpected jolt in her stomach. He looked her up and down, not in a creepy way, more like he was assessing the situation. Up close, she noticed the exhaustion in his face, the tension in his jaw. I know it's unconventional, Maya heard herself saying, but it's just for one night, right? Until the storm passes. He ran a hand through his wet hair, looking torn. I don't want to make you uncomfortable. The alternative is one of us sleeping in a car during a flash flood, Maya said, surprising herself with her practicality. Normally, she'd be the first to refuse something like this, but there was something about him that didn't set off alarm bells. Maybe it was the tiredness in his eyes or the fact that he seemed just as reluctant about the situation as she was. I'm Maya. He hesitated for a long moment, then nodded. Lucas Stone. The woman behind the counter looked pleased. Wonderful. That's $80 total, 40 each. Room 7, just down the row. Sorry there's no luggage carts, but I doubt anything is staying dry tonight anyway. After they'd both paid, the woman handed Lucas a single key attached to a large plastic keychain shaped like a fish. Bathroom small, but the hot water works. There's a coffee maker, and we've got continental breakfast from 6 to 9 if the power stays on. Stay safe, you two. They ran back out into the rain together, Lucas holding his duffel bag over his head. Maya's suitcase wheels caught in the gravel, and suddenly he was there, taking it from her hand without asking, carrying both bags easily. They reached room 7, and he fumbled with the key while Maya stood shivering, her teeth starting to chatter. The door swung open and they practically fell inside. The room was tiny. 2 double beds, barely 3 feet of space between them. A small TV on a dresser, a round table with 2 chairs wedged in the corner, and a bathroom door that was slightly ajar, revealing mint green tiles. The carpet was an unfortunate shade of orange, and there was a painting of a sunset over a lake that looked like it came from a thrift store. Lucas set the bags down and immediately went to the ancient air conditioning unit under the window, switching it to heat. You're freezing. I'm fine, Maya said automatically, but another shiver betrayed her. She was acutely aware that her wet sundress was probably see-through now, and she crossed her arms over her chest. He noticed and immediately turned away, giving her privacy. I'll use the bathroom first if you want to change. Just give me 2 minutes. He grabbed his duffel bag and disappeared into the bathroom before she could respond. Maya heard the water running and took the opportunity to dig through her suitcase for dry clothes. Her hands were shaking, partially from cold, partially from the surreal nature of the situation. She was sharing a motel room with a complete stranger, a very attractive stranger who had just been thoughtful enough to give her privacy without making it awkward. She found a pair of soft cotton shorts and an oversized Northwestern University sweatshirt. When Lucas emerged from the bathroom wearing gray sweatpants and a black t-shirt, his hair towel dried and sticking up in different directions, she grabbed her things and locked herself in the tiny bathroom. The mirror showed her exactly how much of a drowned rat she looked like. Mascara smudged under her eyes, hair in tangles. She quickly stripped off the wet dress, dried herself with a scratchy white towel, and put on the dry clothes. They smelled like the lavender detergent her mother used, and the familiar scent was oddly comforting. When she came back out, Lucas had turned on the TV, which was showing a weather report with lots of red and orange on the radar map. He was sitting on the bed furthest from the door, scrolling through his phone with a frown. How bad is it? Maya asked, sitting on her own bed and towel drying her hair. They're saying the storm system is stalled, could last through tomorrow. He set his phone face down on the nightstand. Sorry you got stuck with a roommate. Same to you. She offered a small smile. Though I guess it could be worse. You could be a serial killer or something. I'm not. He said it so seriously that she laughed. I know. Serial killers don't usually apologize for making people uncomfortable. She pulled her knees up to her chest. So what brings you out in weather like this? Besides being a good Samaritan who didn't leave me in the parking lot. He was quiet for a moment, and she saw something flicker across his face. Hesitation. Just needed to get away for a while, clear my head. You. Same, actually. It was nice that he didn't pry. Most people, especially the ones her mother set her up with, would have immediately launched into 20 questions. Sometimes you need to drive and not think. Exactly. He met her eyes, and there was an understanding there that made something warm unfold in her chest. The lights flickered, and they both looked up at the ceiling. If the power goes out, I'm blaming you, Maya said, the corner of his mouth lifted. Why me? Because I need someone to blame, and you're here. That almost smile turned into a real one, and it transformed his face. He went from handsome to absolutely devastating. Fair enough. The TV weatherman was saying something about staying off the roads, and Maya realized she was starving. Did you happen to grab any food before the storm hit? Lucas shook his head. I saw a vending machine by the office. I'll make a run for it. She started to get up, but he waved her back down. I'll go. What do you want? Anything, honestly. I'm so hungry I could eat gas station sushi. He grimaced. Let's not go that far. I'll be right back. He put on his wet shoes and headed back out into the storm. Through the window, Maya watched his tall form jog through the rain toward the office. She noticed he moved with a certain confidence, an athletic grace that suggested he worked out regularly. While he was gone, she checked her phone. 3 missed calls from her mother, and a text from her best friend Rachel asking if she'd driven into a river because she wasn't answering. Maya quickly texted back that she was fine, at a motel, and would call tomorrow. She deliberately didn't mention the room-sharing situation because Rachel would either freak out or start planning the wedding. Lucas returned carrying an armful of snacks and 2 bottles of water. He dumped them on Maya's bed and she sorted through the hall. Chips, candy bars, a package of powdered donuts, mixed nuts, and 2 sad-looking turkey sandwiches in plastic triangles. It's not the Ritz, he said, pulling his wet shoes off again. It's perfect. She tore open the sandwich package and took a huge bite. It was dry and the lettuce was wilted, but she didn't care. Thank you. They ate in companionable silence, the sound of rain and the low murmur of the TV filling the room. Maya found herself sneaking glances at him. There was something about Lucas that didn't quite add up. His clothes were simple, but they looked expensive. The watch on his wrist was definitely designer, and he had this quality about him, a kind of natural authority, like he was used to being in charge. So what do you do? She asked, crumpling up her sandwich wrapper. For work, I mean. He tensed slightly. I work in business. It's boring. What about you? I'm a teacher. 3rd grade. She smiled, thinking about her classroom. It's chaotic and exhausting, and I love it. Though right now we're on summer break, which is why I could take off on this trip. 3rd grade. That's impressive. I can barely handle adult conversations most days. Kids are honest. If they think you're boring, they'll tell you. If they like you, they'll give you drawings and try to hold your hand during recess. She opened a bag of chips. It's refreshing compared to the adult world where everyone's playing games. Lucas looked at her intently. You're not a game player. No, she agreed. I'm really not. Life's too short. He seemed to relax a little at that. I wish more people felt that way. Bad experiences with game players. She offered him the chip bag and he took a handful. You could say that. His expression darkened. It gets hard to know who actually likes you and who likes what you can do for them. There was a story there, Maya could tell, but she didn't push. Instead, she changed the subject. Want to watch something? Take our minds off the storm. They channel surfed until they found a disaster movie ironically about a tornado, which made them both laugh. As the night wore on, They made commentary on the terrible special effects and the ridiculous plot. Maya found herself genuinely enjoying Lucas's company. He was funny in a dry, understated way, and he seemed to appreciate her sense of humor too. Around midnight, her eyes started getting heavy. Lucas noticed and grabbed the remote. "We should probably try to sleep. Who knows what tomorrow will bring?" "Good idea." Maya slipped under the covers of her bed, which smelled like bleach and something vaguely floral. The sheets were scratchy but clean. "Lucas?" "Yeah? Thanks for being cool about this whole situation. A lot of guys would have made it weird." In the dim light from the TV, she saw him prop himself up on one elbow to look at her. "Thanks for not thinking I was an axe murderer," she laughed softly. "The night's still young." He chuckled and settled back down. "Good night, Maya. Good night." Maya closed her eyes, listening to the rain drumming on the roof and the sound of Lucas's breathing from the other bed. Despite the strangeness of the situation, she felt safe. More than that, she felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time. A connection with someone real, someone who wasn't trying to impress her or fit her into some predetermined box. She fell asleep with a small smile on her face. Maya woke to pale gray light filtering through the curtains and the smell of coffee. She blinked, disoriented for a moment, until the events of the previous night came rushing back. She sat up to find Lucas already awake, sitting at the small table with 2 styrofoam cups and a couple of pastries on napkins. "Morning," he said. His hair was messy from sleep, and he had slight stubble on his jaw. It made him look more approachable, less polished. "I raided the continental breakfast situation. It's not much, but it's hot." "You're an angel." Maya stumbled out of bed and joined him at the table. The coffee was weak and slightly burnt, but the caffeine was exactly what she needed. Outside, the rain had lessened to a steady drizzle, but the sky was still dark and angry-looking. "News says the highway might reopen this afternoon," Lucas said, tearing off a piece of Danish. "But they're still advising people to stay put if they can." Maya wrapped her hands around the warm cup. "So we're stuck here a little longer." "Looks that way. If you want, I can try to find another room now that it's morning. Maybe someone checked out." She shook her head before she could overthink it. "It's fine, unless you're uncomfortable." "I'm not." He met her eyes. "Last night was nice, easy." "It was." She took a sip of coffee. "Most people exhaust me after about an hour. Too much small talk, too much pretending." "Exactly." He leaned back in his chair. "Everyone's always performing. It's tiresome." There it was again, that hint that Lucas was more than he appeared. Maya's curiosity was definitely piqued, but she respected his obvious desire for privacy. Whatever he was running from, it wasn't her business unless he wanted to share. They spent the morning watching bad daytime TV and talking. Lucas asked about her teaching, and she found herself telling him about her students, about the little girl who struggled with reading until Maya found books about dinosaurs, and the boy who had anxiety about his parents' divorce, and how Maya had worked with him to create a safe space in the classroom. "You really care about them," Lucas observed. "They're kids. They deserve to have adults who care." Maya pulled her legs up under her. "I know it sounds cheesy, but I really believe teaching is important. Not just the academics, but helping them figure out who they are. It's not cheesy. It's admirable." He looked like he wanted to say more but stopped himself. "What?" she prompted. "Nothing. I just don't meet a lot of people who are passionate about their work for the right reasons." "What are the wrong reasons?" "Money, power, recognition." He said it with a trace of bitterness that made Maya wonder what he'd experienced. "Those things matter to you?" she asked carefully. "They used to. Now I'm not sure what matters." He stood abruptly, like he'd revealed too much. "I'm going to check if the vending machine has been restocked." "Want anything specific?" Surprise me. After he left, Maya checked her phone again. More messages from her mother and one from her friend Rachel saying she'd tried to look up the motel online and found terrible reviews. Maya laughed and typed back that it was fine, very retro, and she was having an adventure. When Lucas returned, he had more snacks and an odd expression on his face. "What's wrong?" Maya asked. "There's a couple in the office who think they recognize me from somewhere. I told them they were mistaken, but they kept staring." He set the snacks down and ran a hand through his hair. "It's nothing. Paranoia." But Maya could see it wasn't nothing. He looked genuinely rattled. She made a decision in that moment to trust her instincts about him. "Lucas, are you in some kind of trouble? Because if you are, I want to know. Not because I'm scared, but because maybe I can help." He looked at her for a long moment, then sank down onto his bed. "I'm not in legal trouble, nothing like that." "Okay." She waited. "Have you ever felt like your whole life was decided for you? Like everyone had expectations and you just went along with it because it was easier than fighting?" Maya thought about her mother's blind dates, her father's subtle disappointment that she became a teacher instead of a lawyer like him. "Yeah, I have. I've spent the past 10 years building something, working constantly, always being on, and a few days ago I just broke. I got in my car and started driving. No destination, no plan, just away." He met her eyes. "This is the first time in longer than I can remember that I've felt like myself." Maya's heart squeezed. She understood that feeling of suffocation, of needing to escape. What would happen if you went back right now? Meetings, decisions. Hundreds of people asking me questions and expecting answers. Photographers and journalists. He said it like he was describing a prison sentence. Photographers. The word stuck out to her. He hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "I run a company, a fairly successful company. That's all I can say right now, and I know it's not fair to be vague, but I really need you to trust me that I'm not a bad person." Maya studied his face. The exhaustion, the vulnerability in his eyes. "I trust you, just like that, just like that." She shrugged. "My instincts about people are usually pretty good. You're running from something overwhelming, not from the law, and you've been nothing but respectful to me. That counts for a lot." He looked at her like she'd just given him an incredible gift. "Thank you." They ordered pizza for lunch, delivered by a teenager who looked miserable driving in the continuing rain. They ate it sitting cross-legged on their respective beds, playing a game where they tried to name all 50 states in alphabetical order without looking it up. Lucas won, but only barely. "Private school education," he said when Maya asked how he knew them all. "Show off," she teased. The afternoon drifted by. They talked about movies and music and discovered they both loved old Hitchcock films. Lucas told her about growing up in Boston, being pushed into academic excellence by his father who ran a financial firm. Maya shared about growing up in Chicago's suburbs, the youngest of 3 daughters, always trying to stand out. "Are you close with your sisters?" Lucas asked. "Yes and no. They're both older, both very successful in traditional ways. Jennifer's a doctor, Kate's a lawyer married to another lawyer. I'm the baby who plays with kids and paints with finger paints." She smiled ruefully. "They love me, but they don't quite get me. I don't have siblings. Sometimes I think it would have been easier if I did. Someone to share the pressure with, or someone to compete with. It goes both ways." As evening approached, the rain finally began to let up. Lucas checked his phone and reported that the highway would reopen at 6 o'clock. They could leave tonight if they wanted. Neither of them moved to pack. "We should probably think about dinner," Maya said eventually. "I don't think I can eat another vending machine sandwich." The woman at the desk mentioned a diner about a mile down the road. "We could walk if the rain stops." 30 minutes later, they were walking along the side of the rural road in the misty evening air. The world smelled fresh and green, the kind of after-storm smell that made everything feel clean and new. Lucas walked on the side closer to the road, a gentlemanly gesture that Maya found oddly touching. The diner was called Rosie's, and it was exactly what a rural diner should be. Red vinyl booths, a long counter with spinning stools and a jukebox in the corner playing country music. A waitress in her 40s with kind eyes seated them in a corner booth and brought them menus. "This place is perfect," Maya said, looking around with delight. "Very authentic." Lucas was scanning the menu. "What are you getting?" "Breakfast for dinner. Pancakes and bacon. It's the best meal." He grinned. "I'm getting a burger, medium rare." When the waitress returned, they ordered and she winked at them. "You two make a cute couple." "Oh, we're not," Maya started, but the waitress had already walked away. Lucas met her eyes across the table. "Sorry about that. It's fine. I mean, we did spend the last 24 hours together. I guess we look like a couple." She felt her cheeks warm. "Could be worse people to be mistaken for my girlfriend," he said casually, but there was something in his tone that made Maya's pulse quicken. "Same. Could be worse fake boyfriends." They smiled at each other and Maya felt that spark again. It had been building all day. Every time their hands accidentally brushed, every time they made each other laugh, every time their eyes met and held just a beat too long. The food arrived, and it was delicious. Simple, hearty, exactly what they needed. They ate and talked, and Maya realized this was the best date she'd been on in years, despite it not actually being a date. "Tell me something nobody knows about you," Lucas said suddenly. Maya took a sip of her coffee, thinking. "I write poetry. Terrible, melodramatic poetry that will never see the light of day, but I fill notebooks with it. That's not terrible, that's creative. Your turn." He was quiet for a moment. "I wanted to be an architect. I love buildings, design, the way a space can make you feel something. But it wasn't practical, according to my family, so I went into business instead." "It's not too late," Maya said softly. "Maybe not." He looked at her. "What would you do if you could do anything, money and expectations aside?" "I think I'm already doing it. Teaching was my choice, the one thing I fought for. But I'd love to write children's books someday. Combine the art and the storytelling with something that could help kids. You should do it. You should design buildings." They laughed, both recognizing the absurdity and the sincerity of the moment. On the walk back to the motel, the sky had cleared enough to show stars. Lucas pointed out constellations, and Maya was impressed that he actually knew their names. "Astronomy class in college," he explained. "I needed a science credit." "I took geology for poets," Maya admitted. "Nicknamed rocks for jocks. Did you pass?" "With flying colors and a C-." He laughed, that full, genuine laugh she'd only heard a few times, and she wanted to hear it more. Back in the room, the atmosphere felt different, charged somehow. They were both aware that the highway was open, that they could leave, that this strange little bubble they'd created was going to pop. Maya sat on her bed, pulling off her shoes. "So, what's the plan? Are you heading back tomorrow?" Lucas sat across from her, his expression conflicted. "I don't know. I should. I've been gone 2 days, and people are probably losing their minds trying to find me." "Have you checked your messages?" "No, I've been ignoring my phone except for the weather updates." He pulled it out now, looking at it like it might bite him. "There are probably hundreds. You don't have to look if you're not ready." He set the phone down. "Maya, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you believe in fate? In things happening for a reason?" She considered it. "I don't know if I believe everything happens for a reason, but I do think sometimes the universe puts people in your path when you need them." I needed this. These past 24 hours, I needed to remember what it felt like to just be a person, not a position or a name. He looked at her intently. "And I really like spending time with you." Her heart was hammering. I really like spending time with you too. I haven't been completely honest with you. He took a breath. I mean, I haven't lied, but I've left things out. And you've been nothing but genuine with me, and you deserve the whole truth. Okay, she braced herself. My full name is Lucas Stone, and I'm the CEO of Stone Publishing Group. We're the third largest publishing house in the country. We publish books, magazines, run several online media platforms. He watched her face carefully. I inherited the company when my father died 5 years ago. I was 28 and completely unprepared, but I didn't have a choice. It was family legacy and duty, and I couldn't let it fall apart. Maya's mind was racing. Stone Publishing. She knew that name. They published some of her favorite authors, and Lucas was the CEO. The pieces clicked into place: his expensive watch, his way of carrying himself, his comments about photographers and people wanting things from him. So you're famous, she said slowly. In business circles. More than I'd like to be. There have been some high-profile acquisitions recently, and apparently my personal life is fascinating to certain media outlets because I'm young and single and wealthy. He said the last word with distaste. I can't go anywhere without being recognized or photographed. Every decision I make is scrutinized. Every person I date is investigated and torn apart online. That sounds exhausting. It is. And a few days ago, after a particularly brutal board meeting where I had to lay off 200 people due to a merger, I just snapped. I got in my car and drove. No security team, no assistant, no one knowing where I was going, just me. Maya processed this. And then you ended up sharing a motel room with a third-grade teacher from Chicago. Best decision I've made in 5 years. He said it without hesitation. She believed him. Looking at his face, seeing the honesty there, she believed him completely. Why are you telling me this now? Because I like you, really like you, and if this is going anywhere, you deserve to know what you'd be getting into. He ran a hand through his hair. I understand if this changes things. If it's too much or too complicated, I wouldn't blame you for walking away. Maya's thoughts were swirling. This was crazy. She'd known him for 1 day, but it had been the best day she'd had in so long, and everything about him, about them together, felt right in a way she couldn't explain. I'm not walking away, she heard herself say, but I need you to be honest with me. What do you want from this? From me? I want to see where this goes. I want to get to know you more. I want to take you to dinner, real dinner, not diner food. I want to call you and text you and learn everything about you. He leaned forward. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But Maya, I haven't felt this comfortable with another person in years. Maybe ever. And I don't want to lose that. She thought about being practical, about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. He lived in a different world. There would be media attention and scrutiny. Long distance, given that she assumed he lived in New York or Boston. Her mother would have a heart attack or a field day, possibly both. But then she thought about how he made her laugh, how he listened when she talked, how safe she felt with him. How he'd given her privacy without being asked, how he'd brought her coffee and made sure she had the bed closest to the heater. How he looked at her like she was the most interesting person in the world. I want that too, she said quietly. But we have to be smart about this. Take it slow. Get to know each other outside of this weird little bubble. We can do that. He moved to sit next to her on the bed, not touching but close. Can I take you to dinner tomorrow night, wherever you want? I'm supposed to drive back to Chicago tomorrow. So am I, basically, back to Boston. But I could fly to Chicago instead, if you wanted. Maya felt a smile spreading across her face. You'd fly to Chicago for a second date, first date. The motel and the diner don't count as dates. His eyes were warm. I'd fly a lot further than Chicago. Then yes, tomorrow night. But nowhere too fancy. I don't own anything fancy enough for the kind of restaurants you probably go to. I know a great pizza place, best deep dish in the city. You've been to Chicago before, several times for business. I may have done some research on restaurants in case I ever needed to impress a beautiful teacher from the suburbs. She laughed. You're ridiculous. I'm hopeful. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Is this okay? Yes. Her voice came out breathy. He cupped her face gently, his thumb brushing her cheekbone. I'm going to kiss you now if that's all right. Instead of answering, she closed the distance between them and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, both of them testing this new territory. But then his hand slid to the back of her neck, and she grabbed the front of his shirt, and the kiss deepened into something that made her head spin. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lucas rested his forehead against hers. I've wanted to do that since you made that joke about me being a serial killer. I've wanted you to do that since I saw you dripping wet in the office. She laughed at her own words. That came out wrong. I don't know, I thought it was pretty accurate. He kissed her again, slower this time, and Maya felt like she was melting. They spent the rest of the evening on her bed, talking and kissing and making plans. Lucas showed her his phone, the hundreds of messages from his assistant, his board members, people looking for him. There were news articles about his disappearance, speculation about whether he'd had a breakdown or was in danger. I should call my assistant, he said reluctantly. Let people know I'm alive at least. You want privacy? He shook his head and grabbed her hand. Stay. She listened as he made the call, speaking calmly to a woman named Patricia who sounded close to tears with relief. He explained he'd needed a few days away, that he was safe and would be back in Boston by tomorrow evening. He fielded questions about meetings and decisions, his voice taking on that note of authority Maya had noticed before. This was CEO Lucas, and it was interesting to see the shift. When he hung up, he looked drained. That was just the beginning. Tomorrow is going to be a circus. Are you ready for it? No, but I'm better than I was 2 days ago. He squeezed her hand. Promise me something. What? Don't let the media stuff scare you off. They're going to find out about you eventually if we keep seeing each other. They'll dig into your life, your past. It won't be pleasant. Maya's stomach fluttered nervously, but she pushed the fear down. I'll deal with it. I'm tougher than I look. I know you are. He kissed her forehead. You're amazing. They fell asleep in her bed that night, still fully clothed, her head on his chest and his arm around her. It should have felt strange, sleeping next to someone she barely knew, but instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through the curtains and the sound of Lucas on the phone again, speaking in low tones by the window. She stretched and checked her own phone. 8 in the morning, and she had a text from Rachel demanding details. Sorry, Lucas said, ending his call. Didn't mean to wake you. It's fine. You have a lot to deal with. I've arranged for a car to pick me up at 10. I have to get back. He came over and sat on the edge of the bed. But I have a flight to Chicago booked for 6 tonight. Is that too soon? No, she sat up, taking his hand. That's perfect. They had breakfast together one more time at the motel, the truly terrible continental breakfast that somehow tasted good because they were together. Other guests were packing up and leaving as the sun dried up the puddles and the highway fully reopened. This place is going to have a special place in my heart, Lucas said, looking around the dingy room. The ugly carpet, the terrible art, all of it. The Riverside Motel where romance blooms. Maya laughed. They should put that on the sign. At 9:30 they packed their bags and loaded their cars. Lucas held her close in the parking lot, not caring if anyone saw. Tonight, he promised. I'll text you when I land. Tonight, she agreed. He kissed her thoroughly, and she felt it all the way to her toes. When they finally pulled apart, she saw the motel owner watching them from the office window with a satisfied smile. The drive back to Chicago felt different. Maya's mind was racing with everything that had happened. She'd left for a solo trip to clear her head, and she was coming back with the beginning of something that could be incredible or could be a spectacular disaster. But it was something real, and that made it worth the risk. Rachel was at her apartment when she got home, having used the spare key to let herself in. "Tell me everything," Rachel demanded immediately, "and don't leave anything out," Maya told her, watching Rachel's eyes get progressively wider. "Let me get this straight. You shared a motel room with a random hot guy who turned out to be a CEO, and now he's flying here tonight to take you on a date." Rachel started laughing. "This is like something out of a romance novel." "I know it sounds crazy. Crazy. Maya, this is the most exciting thing that's ever happened to you. Usually, your idea of adventure is trying a new coffee shop." Rachel grabbed her hands. "I'm happy for you, but also terrified because what if he's too good to be true?" "He's not. He's real and kind and funny, and yes, he's rich and runs a publishing company, but he's also just Lucas." Maya felt her cheeks heat talking about him. "I really like him, Rach. I can tell. I haven't seen you this lit up in forever." Rachel hugged her. "Okay, we have 8 hours to get you ready for this date. What are you wearing?" They spent the afternoon going through Maya's closet, with Rachel vetoing half her wardrobe as too casual or too formal. They finally settled on dark jeans and a soft blue sweater that made her eyes pop. "Casual but pretty," Rachel declared. "Perfect for pizza that's probably going to be in some exclusive restaurant." At 5:45, Maya's phone rang. Lucas's name on the screen made her heart skip. "Hey," she answered. "Hey." His voice was warm. "I just landed. I'm grabbing a cab to my hotel, then I'll come get you. Still okay for 7? Perfect. I'll text you my address." "Maya." "Yeah, I missed you today. Is that weird to say?" She smiled, feeling giddy. "No, I missed you too." At 7 on the dot, there was a knock on her door. Rachel, who had insisted on staying to see him, practically shoved Maya toward the door. Lucas stood in the hallway holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. He was wearing jeans and a dark blue button-down, and he looked even better than she remembered. "Hi," he said, smiling that smile that made her knees weak. "Hi." He handed her the flowers. "I saw these and thought of you." Behind her, Rachel made a squeaking noise. Maya took the flowers, then grabbed Lucas's hand and pulled him inside. "Lucas, this is my best friend Rachel. Rachel, Lucas." "So nice to meet you," Rachel said, shaking his hand with barely concealed excitement. "Maya's told me absolutely everything." "Everything?" Lucas raised an eyebrow at Maya. "Almost everything," Maya corrected, feeling her face flush. They chatted for a few minutes, Rachel grilling Lucas with questions disguised as small talk. Maya could tell he was amused by her friend's protective nature. Finally, Rachel declared them free to go. "Have her back by midnight," she joked. "Actually, keep her out as late as she wants," Rachel whispered to Lucas, not as quietly as she thought. "She needs to have fun." In the cab to the restaurant, Lucas took her hand. "Your friend is great. She's protective. And probably texting our entire friend group right now about you." "Is that going to be a problem?" "No, they'll love you." Maya leaned against his shoulder. "How was your day?" "Returning to reality, overwhelming. But good. I had some ideas during the drive yesterday, things I want to implement. Changes that could make the company better, more ethical. I think my time away gave me perspective." He kissed the top of her head. "Mostly, I just kept thinking about seeing you again." The restaurant was called Giordano's, and it was busy and loud and perfect. They ordered deep dish pizza with everything on it and talked for 2 hours, oblivious to the noise around them. Lucas told her about his day, the meetings he'd had, the apologies he'd made for disappearing. Maya told him about her classroom prep for the upcoming school year, the lesson plans she wanted to try. "Can I visit your classroom sometime?" Lucas asked. "I'd love to see you in your element. Really, it's pretty chaotic. I want to see every part of your life." He said it seriously, and Maya felt her heart swell. After dinner, they walked along the lakefront, the city lights reflecting off the water. Lucas kept his arm around her shoulders, and Maya felt safer and happier than she had in a long time. "I have to go back to Boston tomorrow," he said eventually. "But I want to see you again soon, next weekend." "I could come to Boston," Maya offered. "I've never been." "I'd love that. I want to show you everything. The office, my apartment, my favorite places." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "Maya, I know this is fast, but I need you to know I'm serious about this, about you. I'm not playing games. I know I'm serious too." She reached up to touch his face. "This is scary and crazy, but it feels right." He kissed her there by the lake, with the city as their backdrop, and Maya thought this would be a moment she'd remember forever. Lucas walked her back to her apartment, despite her protests that he didn't have to. "I want every extra minute with you I can get," he said. At her door, they kissed goodbye, neither wanting to let go. "Text me when you get to your hotel," Maya said. "I will, and Maya, thank you." "For what?" "For taking a chance on a stranger in a motel," he smiled. "Best storm of my life." She watched him walk down the hall, then went inside where Rachel was waiting with ice cream and questions. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Lucas flew to Chicago every weekend, and Maya took the train to Boston twice. They talked every night on the phone or video chat, sometimes for hours. She learned about his work stress, the pressure of running a company, the board members who questioned his every decision. He learned about her difficult students, her passion projects, her family dynamics. Meeting his world was intimidating. His penthouse apartment overlooking Boston Harbor, the sleek offices of Stone Publishing, the restaurants where everyone knew his name. But Lucas made sure she never felt out of place. He introduced her to his assistant Patricia, who became an instant ally. He took her to his favorite hole-in-the-wall taco place that had the best food she'd ever tasted. He showed her the building he wished he'd designed, explaining the architecture with such passion that she fell a little more in love with him. The media attention started after their third public date. A photo of them at a charity gala, Maya in a borrowed dress because she hadn't owned anything fancy enough, Lucas's arm around her waist. The headline read, "Publishing Heirs Mystery Woman." Maya's phone exploded. Her mother called frantically, having seen the article. Her sisters texted their shock. Rachel sent the article with about 50 exclamation points. Lucas called immediately. "I'm sorry. I tried to keep us out of the press as long as possible." "It's okay," Maya said, even though her hands were shaking as she read the comments speculating about who she was and what she wanted from him. "I knew it would happen. I'm hiring security for you, just until the interest dies down. Lucas, that's excessive. It's necessary. Please. Let me protect you." She agreed because she could hear the worry in his voice. The next week was strange, having a security guard escort her to school and back. The other teachers were curious but kind. Her principal called her in to make sure everything was okay, concerned about the media trucks that had shown up outside the school. "I'm dating someone who's in the public eye," Meyer explained. "It will calm down soon." But it got worse before it got better. Tabloids dug into her past, finding nothing scandalous but printing details of her life anyway. Her college photos, her social media, interviews with people she barely remembered. There were think pieces about wealth gaps in relationships, about whether she was using him, whether he was slumming it with a teacher. Maya felt herself pulling away, the stress eating at her. Lucas noticed immediately during one of their video calls. "Talk to me," he said. "What's going on in your head? I don't know if I can do this." The words burst out of her. "The attention, the comments, people judging every single thing about me. I'm just a teacher, Lucas. I'm not cut out for this world." "You're not just a teacher. You're Maya Kennedy, and you're stronger than you think." His voice was firm. "But if this is truly too much, I understand. I won't force you into a life you don't want." "Do you want me to walk away?" She held her breath. "God, no, I love you, Maya." Her heart stopped. "What? I love you?" "I should have said it before. I've known for weeks, probably since that first night in the motel when you trusted me without any reason to." He looked vulnerable on the screen. "I love how you care about your students. I love your poetry that you think is terrible but is actually beautiful. I love how you make me laugh and how you challenge me to be better. I love that you see me, not my money or my position, just me. And I will do whatever it takes to make this work, including walking away from everything if that's what you need." Maya was crying now. "You can't walk away from your company." "I can do whatever I want. That's the benefit of being the CEO." He smiled sadly. "But I don't want to lose you." "You won't. I love you too." She wiped her eyes. "I'm sorry I freaked out. I just needed to hear that this is real for you." "It's the most real thing in my life." They worked it out together. Lucas hired a publicist for Maya to help her navigate the media attention. He made it clear to the press that she was off limits, threatening legal action against outlets that harassed her. Slowly, the interest died down as newer stories took over the news cycle. Maya met Lucas's family, a nerve-wracking weekend at his mother's estate in the Hamptons. His mother Diane was elegant and intimidating, but she warmed up when she saw how happy Lucas was. His uncle George, who sat on the board of Stone Publishing, told Maya privately that he hadn't seen Lucas smile this much in years. Lucas met Maya's family at a chaotic dinner at her parents' house. Her mother cried and hugged him, thrilled that her youngest daughter had found someone. Her father grilled him about his intentions and his business practices. Her sisters interrogated him about everything from politics to his favorite books. Lucas handled it all with grace and humor, winning them over one by one. "Your family is wonderful," he told Maya later as they drove back to her apartment. "Loud and chaotic, but wonderful. They loved you. My mom is probably already planning the wedding." "Good," Lucas said casually. "That will save us time." Maya turned to stare at him. "Lucas Stone, are you proposing?" "Not yet, but I will be, so you might want to start thinking about your answer." He grinned at her shocked expression. 6 months after the storm, Lucas called Maya on a Tuesday night. "Pack a bag," he said without preamble. "I'm picking you up Friday night." "Where are we going?" "It's a surprise. Trust me." She packed for any weather, having learned that Lucas's surprises could be anything from a weekend at a spa to tickets to see her favorite band. Rachel helped her choose outfits, speculating wildly about what he had planned. Friday evening, Lucas picked her up in a rental car, refusing to tell her where they were going. They drove for 2 hours, Maya playing music and singing badly while Lucas laughed. As the sun was setting, she realized where they were. "Is this the same route we took that night?" He turned off the highway at a familiar exit. "There's somewhere I want to take you." The Riverside Motel looked exactly the same. The neon sign flickering, the orange carpet visible through the office window. Lucas parked in the same spot they'd parked in that stormy night. "What are we doing here?" Maya asked, though her heart was starting to race. "Come with me." He took her hand and led her to room 7. Somehow he had a key, and when he opened the door, Maya gasped. The room had been transformed. Fairy lights strung across the ceiling, covering the ugly walls. Candles on every surface. Rose petals on the bed, music playing softly from a speaker. "How did you?" she started. "I called ahead. The owner remembered us. She was happy to help." Lucas pulled her into the room and closed the door. "Maya, this is where my life changed. This ugly little room with its terrible carpet and worse art. This is where I met you, where I started being myself again." He got down on one knee, and Maya's hands flew to her mouth. "I have loved you from that first moment when you made a joke about serial killers while dripping wet in a motel office. You've made me laugh, made me think, made me want to be the best version of myself. You've stood by me through media storms and family drama and the chaos of my life. You've never wanted anything from me except me." He pulled out a small velvet box. "Maya Kennedy, will you marry me?" The ring was perfect, a simple diamond on a platinum band, nothing ostentatious, nothing flashy, just beautiful. "Yes," she said through happy tears. "Yes, of course, yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and stood, lifting her off her feet as he kissed her. They were both laughing and crying, and Maya thought her heart might burst from happiness. "I can't believe you brought me back here," she said when they finally pulled apart. "It's where our story started. I wanted it to be where this chapter began too." He touched her face tenderly. "I have one more surprise." "There's more." He pulled out his phone and showed her architectural plans, beautiful, detailed drawings of a building. "I'm stepping back from the CEO position, promoting my COO to take over day-to-day operations. I'll stay on the board, but I'm pursuing architecture, going back to school, taking the exams I need." He looked nervous. "You inspired me to go after what I really want." "Lucas, that's amazing." She hugged him tight. "I'm so proud of you. And I was thinking, once I get established, maybe we could start a foundation. Publishing children's books, getting them into schools that can't afford them. You could be involved, use your teaching expertise." He was talking faster now, excited. "We could make a real difference." "We could," she agreed, seeing the vision. "That's perfect." They spent the night in room 7, talking about their future, making plans, dreaming together. In the morning, the owner knocked on their door with complimentary coffee and congratulations. "I knew you two were special," she said with a knowing smile. "The way you looked at each other that first night, some people are just meant to be." They got married 8 months later in a small ceremony at a botanical garden in Chicago. Just family and close friends. No press. No photographers except the one they hired. Maya wore a simple lace dress, and Lucas cried when he saw her walk down the aisle. Rachel was maid of honor, giving a speech about how her best friend had driven into a storm and found her soulmate. Patricia was there with her husband, beaming like a proud mother. Lucas's mother and Maya's parents sat together in the front row, tissues in hand. "I, Lucas Stone, take you, Maya Kennedy, to be my wife," Lucas said, his voice strong and clear. "You are my best friend, my partner, my home. I promise to support your dreams, to make you laugh, to weather any storm with you by my side." Maya's vows were equally heartfelt, her voice shaking with emotion. "I, Maya Kennedy, take you, Lucas Stone, to be my husband. You've shown me that love can be easy and right, that taking chances can lead to beautiful things. I promise to be your safe place, your adventure, your forever." When they kissed as husband and wife, everyone cheered. The reception was held at a restaurant overlooking the lake, the same lakefront where they'd walked on their first real date. They danced their first dance to a song about storms and sunshine. They cut a cake that Maya's mother had insisted on baking. They laughed with friends and family late into the night. "Happy," Lucas whispered during a quiet moment, holding her close on the dance floor. "Incredibly," Maya answered, resting her head on his shoulder. I've never been happier." He kissed her temple. "Thank you for trusting a stranger in a motel. Thank you for bringing coffee and being kind." She looked up at him. "Best storm of my life." They bought a house in Boston with space for Lucas's home office and a room for Maya's writing. She transferred to a school in the city, teaching third grade to a new group of students who quickly stole her heart. Lucas started his architecture program, studying late into the night while Maya graded papers beside him. Their foundation launched 2 years after their wedding, focusing on literacy programs and getting diverse children's books into underfunded schools. Maya wrote her first children's book, and Stone Publishing published it. It became a bestseller, and she used the profits to fund more programs. Lucas designed their first community library, a beautiful space that welcomed everyone. At the opening ceremony, he told the gathered crowd that his wife had taught him to dream again, and this library was proof that it was never too late to pursue passion. They went back to the Riverside Motel every year on their anniversary. The owner eventually retired and left the motel to her daughter, who kept room 7 exactly as it was and always saved it for them. They'd spend the night there, remembering that first meeting, grateful for the storm that had brought them together. 5 years after that stormy night, Maya stood in the same motel room, looking down at a positive pregnancy test in her hands. Lucas was in Boston at a meeting and she'd made the trip alone for a work thing nearby. She couldn't believe she was finding out here in this place where everything had started. She called him immediately, unable to wait. "Hey, beautiful," he answered. "How's the conference?" "I'm at the motel," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "Everything okay?" His concern was immediate. "Lucas, I'm pregnant." The silence stretched for a heartbeat, then she heard him laugh with pure joy. "Really? We're having a baby, we're having a baby." She started crying happy tears. "I can't believe I found out here. It's perfect. That room is magic." His voice was thick with emotion. "I'm coming there right now. Don't move. You have meetings. They can wait. Nothing is more important than being with you right now. I'll be there in 2 hours." He made it in 1 hour and 45 minutes. When he burst through the door of room 7, he lifted Maya and spun her around, both of them laughing and crying. "We're having a baby," he kept saying, like he couldn't quite believe it. They sat on the bed, the same bed where they'd first slept side by side, and talked about names and nurseries and how their lives were about to change again. "Boy or girl, what do you want?" Maya asked. "Healthy. That's all I want." He placed his hand on her still flat stomach. "But if it's a girl, I hope she's exactly like you." Their daughter Rose was born on a sunny October morning, tiny and perfect with dark hair and her father's green eyes. Lucas cried when he held her for the first time, overwhelmed with love and gratitude. Maya watched her husband rock their daughter and thought about the chain of events that had led them here. A storm, a motel, a chance meeting that had changed everything. 2 years later, they had a son, James, who had Maya's brown eyes and his father's serious expression even as a baby. Their house filled with laughter and toys, and the beautiful chaos of family life. Lucas's architecture firm flourished, designing community spaces and affordable housing with an emphasis on beauty and functionality. Maya continued teaching and writing, publishing 5 more children's books that became classroom staples. Their foundation grew, touching thousands of children's lives. On their 10th anniversary, they returned to room 7 with Rose and James. The kids thought the motel was an adventure, delighted by the old TV and the weird orange carpet. "Why do we come here every year?" Rose asked, her 8-year-old curiosity endless. Lucas and Maya exchanged a look, then Maya knelt down to her daughter's level. "This is where Daddy and I met. There was a big storm, and we both needed a place to stay, and we ended up sharing this room." Like in a fairy tale. Rose's eyes were wide. "Exactly like a fairy tale," Lucas confirmed, picking up James, who was trying to climb on the bed. Sometimes the best things happen when you least expect them. And sometimes storms bring you exactly what you need, Maya added, taking her husband's hand. That night, after the kids were asleep in one bed, Maya and Lucas lay in the other, holding each other close. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd gotten here first?" Maya asked quietly. "If you'd taken the room before I arrived, all the time. And then I thank whatever force in the universe made sure we got here at the same time." He kissed her forehead. "You're the best thing that ever happened to me, Maya Stone. You're my best thing too." She snuggled closer. 10 years and you still give me butterflies. Good. I plan on giving you butterflies for the next 60 years at least." They fell asleep like they had that first night, wrapped around each other, safe and loved and home. 20 years after the storm, Maya stood in the office of the brand new Kennedy Stone Literary Center, a beautiful building that Lucas had designed and their foundation had funded. It housed a library, classrooms, writing workshops, and a publishing support program for aspiring children's book authors. Their children, Rose now 22 and working on her teaching credential, and James 20 years old and studying architecture like his father, stood with them at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. "I can't believe we built this," Maya said, looking around at the space that represented so much of what they believed in. "We've built a lot of things together," Lucas said, his arm around her waist. He was 48 now, with some gray at his temples that Maya loved. "But this might be my favorite, besides our family." The mayor gave a speech about community investment and literacy. Rose spoke about how her parents had shown her the power of following your passion. James revealed the plaque dedicating the building, his voice proud and clear. After the ceremony, a young journalist approached them. "Mr. and Mrs. Stone, what would you say is the secret to your success, both professionally and personally?" Maya and Lucas looked at each other and smiled. "Taking chances," Maya said. "And trusting strangers," Lucas added, making her laugh. "But really," Maya continued, "it's about partnership, about supporting each other's dreams and building something together that's bigger than either of you alone. And it's about remembering where you came from," Lucas said. "We go back to the motel where we met every year. Room 7. It keeps us grounded, reminds us that the best things in life often come when you're just trying to get out of the rain." That night, they drove to the Riverside Motel one more time. The owner's daughter had kept it running all these years, maintained it as a piece of nostalgia. Room 7 was still the same, though the furniture had been updated and the carpet finally replaced. "It's less orange," Maya observed, dropping her bag on the bed, "but still ours." Lucas pulled her into his arms. 20 years and I still get excited to bring you here. 20 years and it still feels like that first night," she kissed him. "Well, minus the awkwardness and the storm. The storm is what made it perfect." He held her close. "I was running from everything, lost and overwhelmed. And then there you were, soaking wet and making jokes, and suddenly everything made sense." "I was running too," Maya admitted. "From expectations and pressure and a life that didn't feel like mine. And I found you and I found myself." They stayed up late talking like they always did, about their kids and their work and their dreams for the future. They talked about retirement plans, about traveling, about maybe getting a dog now that the kids were grown. They talked about everything and nothing, the easy conversation of two people who knew each other completely. "Maya," Lucas said as they were falling asleep. If I could go back to that night, knowing everything that would happen, all the challenges and the media attention and the hard work, I'd do it all exactly the same. Every single moment has been worth it." She rolled over to face him, her hand finding his in the darkness. "Me too. Every storm, every struggle, every beautiful moment. I'd choose you every single time. I love you. I love you too." Outside, the stars shone over the riverside motel, the same stars that had watched over them for 2 decades. The same building that had sheltered them during a storm and witnessed the beginning of a love story that had grown into a lifetime of partnership, passion, and purpose. Maya Kennedy and Lucas Stone had found each other by chance, or fate, or whatever force guides lost souls toward home. They'd built a life together that was rich with love and meaning, raising children and creating change, and never forgetting the unlikely beginning that had started it all. In the morning, they'd drive home to Boston, back to their busy lives and their foundation work and their family. But for this night, they were just Maya and Lucas in room 7, grateful for storms and second chances and the beautiful accident of love.